I'm Evaleen from AUsome Training. We are an autistic-led autism training provider, which means that we are autistic and we design, and all of the people who design and deliver our courses are autistic. So I did our last video on the different types of stimming, and today I'm going to talk about the different functions behind stimming, or the different reasons why we stim. So just a quick reminder, stimming is short for self-stimulatory behavior, but that's not really what it means. So when we use the word stimming at AUsome Training, we are talking about a human response to the environment, or a way that something that we do to connect our mind and body. Stimming is a very human behavior. We don't usually talk about it as a human behavior. It's usually spoken about as something that like autistic people do, but actually everybody does it. And you'll understand a little bit why when I go through the reasons why we stim. So basically, we stim to soothe ourselves. So stimming is like a repetitive movement or action. So, a baby sucking their thumb, that's a repetitive movement, an action that soothes them. We also might rock a baby. So that's us using a stim to soothe them. So we're sharing our stim to soothe. So that's one of the reasons why we stim as human beings. Another reason why we stim as human beings is to stimulate ourselves. So, when you're trying to remember something, or, if your foot falls asleep, you might tap it on the ground. So you remember, to wake up your foot, or your brain remembers where your foot is. We also do it to express emotions. So you might see autistic people flapping because they're excited, or because we're excited. You might see autistic people clapping, but you might also see other people clapping and flapping. Again, they're quite human things. Wringing your hands, if you're anxious or worried, they're always all stims that we do to express our emotions. We don't do, say, I'm going to wring my hands now so everyone knows I feel anxious. But if we understand that this is an anxious action, or something that someone does when they're anxious, we know that there's communication in that stim. We also use stims to communicate. So as I am talking, I'm using my hands. It's part of my communication because it helps me to articulate. It helps me to turn the thoughts I want to share with you into words, and that's part of my communication. Also, I've been in situations with other autistics, which has been like really cool, where actually people are moving and stimming, and I understand what they're saying to me. It's almost like a language of its own. What it is, it's body language. So, we use it to communicate as well. So we also stim to take in information as human beings, to process information and to store information and to recall information. So stimming is part of our learning. It's part of how we learn. I can put all of those together in one example, taking in information, processing, and then storing it. When I was in school, I used to doodle on my books. I have very clear memories from secondary school. I'm not sure what I used to do in primary school, but I used to draw all over my books. And what I was doing, not that I knew it at the time, was I was taking in information that my teacher was saying. So I was taking in the information hourly, and I was filtering through it. So taking out the stuff I didn't need to know, or the stuff I already knew, and I was processing it. So I was relating it to stuff I already knew, and I was storing it. So I was, storing it there. So later on, when I wanted to recall it, I could recall it the way I wanted. So for me, I'm very visual. So I stored what I needed to learn kind of as images, and even just whatever way the action of writing or drawing, that helped me to do all of those things. So not like just to concentrate, but it had so much more to it. Again, recalling information. There's stims that we do as human beings to, help us to remember the thing that we're trying to think of. So stimming is like a really cool thing that's got a lot of attention because autistic people do it. Really needs to be explored more because it's such a human thing. Now, unfortunately, when I talk about like how important stimming is and how autistic people need to be able to stim, sometimes people say, oh, what about the child who's banging their head? Or what about the person who's injuring themselves? Or, they pick these very extreme examples. Now, those extreme examples do exist. But again, if we bring it back to it being a human behavior, something humans do, why would a human hurt themselves? Why would a human bang their head off a wall repetitively? we need to start asking those questions, because autism doesn't cause anybody to do those things. Can't, right? But why would a human being do that? And underneath, I suppose, if we start asking those questions, we find that, well, there's a lot of bad feelings and there's a lot of overwhelm, and it's actually a sign of distress. It's, quite a traumatic response. So again, extreme stims aren't for pleasure or soothing us or processing or anything like that. They're a sign that the autistic person is suffering and that their needs are not being met. And if that is happening, well, then it's kind of the responsibility of everybody in that environment to figure out what is wrong, what's going wrong for that person. Again, all of us would respond the same way if we had that much, I suppose, bad feelings and that kind of pressure in our environment. So that's a little bit about stimming and the reasons why people stim, not just autistics, people in general. So I hope you found it informative, and you can check out more of what we do on AUsome Training.com. Thanks for listening.